I don't like the framing. Yes, much better. I want to kind of give some background first. Georgia Southern does a circuit where they have, what is it, a partnership with the South Arts, like this other organization?
Yeah, we have a Southern Circuit with South Arts is what it's called, and they basically bring filmmakers or independent filmmakers who have made documentaries and fiction to sort of screen their films to students and, have Q&As, get some feedback and about how they made the movie and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. And this past Monday we saw Light from Light. That was the film they screened. And the filmmaker was there, Paul Harrill. He seemed like a really nice guy. But we're here not to talk about him. We're here to talk about the film. And we're, even though we both seem to really like this movie, any flaws that we have, we're not going to sugarcoat, even though we're kind of scared that Paul Harrill might see this, but we'll be honest.
So do you want to start with the flaws, or do you want to start with what you like?
I want to start with, well, I guess what I like, because there were things that I had the urge to like raise my hand and just like say to him,
Mm-hmm.
Because there were a lot of things that I wanted to praise about it. So the film starts to set up a ghost story, that it's about this kind of this entity of this woman who has died, a woman from this man's past. And the main character has to, investigate the house. Is there a ghost here? And the first scene where she's investigating the house, there's like a lot of tension, and you're like, okay, this is gonna explode, the ghost is gonna happen, and the whole movie kind of leads you on believing that. But the movie kind of uses that to play into its themes. And there's a scene that apparently they filmed after the rest of the production, where the main character literally says, I wish there was more. I wish there was more to this. I love when movies have a structure that reflects the themes. Examples, I'm going to say Big Lebowski.
Yeah.
A constantly building plot that ultimately resolves itself. Plays into the themes of, screw it, just relax, let everything just play out. This movie kind of reminded me of that. It also reminded me when Paul Harrill was up there talking, he mentioned, I can't remember why he mentioned North by Northwest, and I was thinking maybe this guy is a Hitchcock fan, because this film reminded me of Vertigo in the sense that it seemed to lead you on. Have you seen Vertigo?
Unfortunately, no, I've not seen Vertigo.
It's about this man investigating this woman. That's how it starts off, and it is not a supernatural film, but it leads you on to kind of believe that it is a ghost story.
Like it has that tone, that feeling.
Yeah, but it actually is. It kind of bends genres, so it kind of reminded me of that. And these are like some of my favorite things about it. The other thing that I want to say before I let you finally talk,
okay,
is I seriously love when movies are not melodramatic. I love movies that achieve emotion by not trying.
Mm-hmm.
I hate movies that
really push for it.
This is a sad scene, so here's a close up. They're crying. Listen to the music. It's all loud. Joker. But I love movies that just kind of achieve. They don't go for the big moments. They don't go for the Oscar moments. Here's the actor doing the big thing. Here's a moment that's really tense. This movie just it takes itself seriously, and it trusts the audience to get involved in this story without being told, hey, this is a serious scene or a tense scene, so you're supposed to feel this. It trusts the audience, and I really respect it for that.
It's interesting you say that, because I have a little bit of a different opinion.
Okay.
I don't know, this is maybe just because of like the movies that I loved growing up and the movies that I love today, because they have this thing in common, is like they're like, I love action films. And science fiction and things that most average moviegoers love in their genre films. And obviously in those genres, there's a lot that gets thrown at the viewer, be it, intense action sequences or like really deep, like intellectual thought as far as science fiction. For example, Blade Runner is a good example of that. So with this movie, I kind of wanted a bit more happening on screen.
Yeah.
However, that being said, when we were watching the screening, Paul came up and he said something that I thought was pretty profound about the film, is that it's a very meditative movie.
I love action films.
Like you can sit down and it's like you're watching your own meditation. And that was probably the most accurate thing or accurate word to describe this experience, because I hate to say it, I almost fell asleep
Action films.
at one point. Like it was so soothing. It's like a soothing emotional experience, because it deals with a lot of themes of like self-worth and relationships. It was a meditative experience, but at the same time I also wanted more going on.
There were some things in the movie that were genuinely funny.
There were, yeah.
But there were some moments where they laughed where it clearly wasn't meant to be funny. And I feel like they did that because they just didn't know how else to feel in that scene. They were just like, this is supposed to make me feel something. Hey, am I supposed to be laughing at this? When really it's just kind of like, what? A good example of this being, I went and saw Uncut Gems, and there was a group of people in there that thought they were just seeing an Adam Sandler movie.
No, you're getting fatter, and your hair doesn't realize it needs to cover more face. Okay.
And so they started laughing at things that were serious, and I'm like, you don't know what you're watching. You are dumb.
But I also understand, like, the common moviegoer probably wouldn't be able to, like, grasp onto anything in this film. Because, like, it's a very gradual and slow-paced experience. And there's not a lot of music. Like, the music only swells, and it's good music. It's a great score. But it only swells at, like, key emotional moments. And it really only shows up at, like, the beginning and the end of the film. So you have, like, all of this space throughout the second act that's just, there's dialogue and sound effects, but no music to accompany it.
And you know what? And this is pretty high praise. I don't think this movie is obviously a masterpiece, but my favorite film of all time, No Country for Old Men, barely has any music in it whatsoever.
Yeah.
So the fact that I'm thinking about that movie during this movie is just kind of like a bit of praise, because it's clearly achieving something that film achieved, which is you can have these long scenes that don't need music. There were no awkward moments, in my opinion, that didn't have music that needed music. Everything kind of presented itself well, and I felt that it didn't need to be, you know, here's some fast-paced music or here's some sad music to show you what to feel. Again, it just kind of it moved well without trying too hard.
Yeah, it flowed really nicely. Like, each scene flows into one another, and that's something that I appreciate, is when the film or a film is cohesive with its narrative. Like, every moment builds and builds upon the previous moment, and it, as a viewer, you can easily follow it. So I appreciated that. I also was, like, really impressed by Jim Gaffigan's performance. You know, Jim Gaffigan is a famous comedian, and that's what he's known for. He's a very funny guy, naturally. And this is, like, one of the only performances of his that I've seen or know about where he actually is in a dramatic role. And he does a great job. Like, all of the scenes that he's involved in, with the context of, like, what his character has gone through, he sells it. And, you know, people say that tragedy and comedy are two sides of the same coin, and Jim Gaffigan pretty much put that on display.
I thought the cinematography of this movie was really good. I love the opening shots with the fog and stuff. And that wide shot with the car and then the fog over here. Like, I thought, oh god, this is very good looking. There's a shot that's on the poster where she's walking around the house. She's shining a flashlight around, and the light bounces against a wall, and she's silhouetted, and it just looks really good.
It was really well framed.
Yeah. So as for my flaws with the movie, with the story that this film has, I don't have any issues with how it's presented and how slow it is. Two things that I want to say are, with it being a very meditative experience, very slow, I really do think there are some shots that aren't necessary. Obviously, I've only seen the film once, so I could not be remembering certain things correctly, but I remember certain shots of, you know, here's the main character carrying something out into the car and putting it in the car. And then there was a scene, I think she was talking to her son, and then they walk away from each other, and the scene ends with her walking into the bathroom, and then the scene ends, and that shot I just feel wasn't necessary. So I think the movie could be cut down a little bit. And then the only other thing is, so obviously it takes a lot of talent to direct a film that feels like a film. Like, any film, you know, that is made and feels like a film, like, you can't just shoot things and then put them in order. There has to be a flow. There has to be the sequence of events has to kind of play out and flow. The performances have to be consistent. Making a film is an incredible achievement, and it's obviously a really well directed film because the performances are consistent, the shots are good, the tone is consistent. I will say the directing, I think, could have used something else. It kind of goes into what you were saying about
I love action films.
more happening on screen.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
and by the way, I just want to say, if the director watches this, he hears you say,
I love action films.
Well, I do. Like,
no, yeah. But I do think this story could be enhanced a little bit by maybe some more flair from the directing or editing or something. And I know, like, what this story is, that isn't what it needs. It doesn't need like Martin Scorsese flair. Just maybe cutting it down, maybe a little snappier in some places. But as it stands, I was really appreciating the slow pace of it.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I just want to preface, like,
I do love action films,
but
I also love auteur stuff as well.
and this is definitely more in line with an auteur style film.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that's just me. You know, like my brain is very, I'm like a sparrow. I have the attention span of a sparrow.
Paw, snip, paw, sleep, paw, partner.
You know, I tend to have that problem, but with movies, I don't have a hard time getting into movies, no matter what they are. Actually, that's not true. Batman v Superman is terrible, and I was throwing up during that movie.
We should review that movie because
my
like
God.
I actually like that movie.
I do love action
Yeah,
films.
I like that movie.
Oh my God, that is the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. I shit you not.
We'll talk about it.
Like, the Transformers movies make me sick. The prequels put me to sleep. Batman v Superman is the only movie in my life that does both of those things. So that is why I'm gonna leave this part in, and we can just let I don't know.
So what we learned here is that Light from Light is not Batman v Superman. I mean, that's about as much as I have to say about it. Like, I think they did a great job with the visuals, and there were some great performances, and it's a very emotionally touching film.
Other thing to say. First off, I want to rate the film. What do you give it out of 10? Let's rate this movie.
What do I give it out of 10? I'm gonna give it a solid 8.5.
Whoa, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought it was really well done.
That's really high. Like, I what's a movie I gave an 8? I give the original Blade Runner an 8. Like, I'm very strict on my ratings.
You gave that an 8?
Yeah.
That's a 10, guys.
There are so far in my life 3 10s I have given. 7, 6, 7, 6, 7, 6, 7, 7. I'm gonna give it a 7. This is above a 6 because of the themes and the way the genre kind of plays into the themes and the genre bending and the pacing. Okay, so spoilers. Spoiler.
Alert.
Ending. The book pages turning could have been a draft.
Right,
I think that
right.
could have been done a little better. I was actually disappointed that it was trying to say, oh yeah, it is a ghost, but I think even like the director would probably argue it's more ambiguous. I think the way the pages turned, it was a little unnatural. Clearly, you know, it seemed like something was doing it. I think completely ending it before the book scene would have been better, although I actually, when she hit the bookshelf earlier on and then she picked up the book and put it on the shelf, like, obviously that was setting up something. But the fact that it set up what it did, and the fact that kind of the passage in the book is clearly kind of on the nose, about like I'm finally happy, stuff like, I don't know. It's clearly dialogue that's meant to like be like, oh, the ghost is saying these things. I think that tipped into a little bit of melodrama, Hollywood kind of.
That kind of took you out of it?
Yeah.
I understand that, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. That's my only spoiler thing.
I mean, I am going to disagree with you there. I love this ending.
Really?
I think the ending was perfect because I love callbacks. I love it when movies like set things up
yeah.
and then yeah. So I knew that book was going to come back, but I didn't know it was going to be like a key point of the ending.
I loved the way the ending was handled.
Yeah.
How she, like, just her reaction, and how we kind of leave him in the room and she's just sitting there and, like, you know, and then it ends there.
And
Very
that's
well
why
handled.
I was okay with like the possibility of the ghost being real.
Okay.
Like that's why I was okay with it because like that moment just like really hit me emotionally really hard.
Yeah.
And plus like they've basically been setting up throughout the entire movie that this is a ghost story.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of not gonna lie, kind of hoping that the ghost was real the whole time. So
Well, yeah, I think the point is to get you hoping. I like movies that kind of, like, go in, like, again, I'm going to mention No Country for Old Men. The ending of that movie, completely not what you're expecting based off of the tropes of the Western genre. It doesn't end in a shootout. It ends the way it ends. No spoilers for that movie because it's great. I wanted this movie to end the same way where this movie, you're setting up a ghost story, so it's going to end with talking to the ghost, something like that. And I was hoping that it wouldn't, but that's just my opinion. That's my Coen brother loving kind of genre twisting vertigo kind of view on things.
I see that, yeah. I thought it just like really capped everything off really nicely, and the fact that it's a little bit ambiguous as well, like they don't give you a solid answer. They just kind of leave it up to you to decide. I thought that was a very smart decision.
Oh yeah, leaving it up like I can believe that it. My voice just cracked. I can believe it's not real. You can believe it is real.
7, 8.5, good movie, recommended.
What do you think about the coronavirus?